Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Everstage's Finance Fireside Show, Season 3. We converse with RevOps and GTM leaders from some of the most successful companies today and learn from their unique stories. Joining us today is Mark Rosenthal, Chief Revenue Officer at Kastle. Mark, thanks for joining us. Could you start by telling listeners a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, AB. Yeah, great to be here. So I am the Chief Revenue Officer at Castle. As you said, this is my second CRO gig. I was previously Chief Revenue Officer at HQO. Both companies operate in the property tech, real estate tech space. Castle is a $200 million company. We sell
Hmm.
managed security as a service and primarily focus on commercial real estate owners, operators, and managers for office buildings, multifamily residential, and tenant suites or occupiers themselves.
Awesome. Looking at your background from Google to HQ or to Castle now, what are the two or three biggest lessons you've learned about taking revenue from one stage to the next? Now it's 200 million. I'm sure you've seen the journey altogether. So for our listeners.
Yeah, I have. So I've worked at a number of different size and stage companies. HQO was $194,000 of ARR when I got there and 35 million when I left. Castle, as I already mentioned, is a $200 million company, and the programmatic advertising business that I led at Google was a $3.5 billion business. So I've seen the journey at all kinds of different stages. I think the three lessons for me are number one, be flexible. Different stages or different seasons of the business require different approaches. What works at that sort of 0 to 15 million, 0 to 35 million, even at HQO, is very different than operating at true scale at $3.5 billion at Google. The
Hmm.
constraints that you have at 3.5 billion are very different than the constraints you have at zero or 0 to 30 million, right? The constraints you have at 0 to 30 million are capital. How are we going to allocate? Where are we going to get the most return? The constraints you have at 3.5 billion are bureaucratic. So you have to be flexible. You have to be able to adapt. You have to know what season of the business you're in, and make the right calls for the business. Second is be data driven, especially in today's world. It's really the only way to get and stay ahead. It's your competitive advantage. Uh, Companies with the best data are the ones that outperform. And since data is the foundation of AI and automation, and we're seeing this rapid acceleration of tools and
Hmm.
offerings and capabilities. If you don't have your data foundation right and you don't understand your data, then you can't succeed. And then third is be human, because at the end of the day, it's still all about your team. It's still all about your people. Nothing happens without great talent. So you have to hold a high bar and not compromise on talent. I mean, at Google, the founders, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, interviewed every candidate until the company was literally a few thousand people. And it ultimately became untenable for them to do so. But for me as a CRO, like, I take that lesson, and for me as a CRO, I interview every candidate joining our team, whether they're a salesperson, a sales engineer, a business development representative, or a sales coordinator. I interview everybody on the team because it's really important that we hold the high bar, that we set the standard, and that we get the right people in the door.
You laid that out really well. Every stage of company would demand different kind of processes, people, but you still find a balance between data and people and have the right set of folks. And in your view, what role should compensation strategy, but end of the day, incentives drive behavior, and you are running the show in the sales as a sales head. What role should compensation strategy play in building a healthy sales culture? Especially around transparency, total rewards, and reinforcing the behaviors that the business needs.
Yeah, for sure. So first, I'm a big believer that you get what you pay for. So great salespeople should make great money. It's a hard job. If it wasn't a hard job, more people would do it, and more importantly, more people would do it successfully. Um, uh, and in fact, the three core pillars of the sales success culture that I try to build are solid ecosystem, personal growth, and economic success. right? So we want to make sure that our top performing salespeople are making really good money. Compensation strategy, though, is about more than just your base salary and your bonus or commission. As you said, it's about total rewards, right? And so when you consider total rewards, that also to me includes emotional rewards, like recognition in addition to financial rewards, right? So we run a President's Club trip for top achievers. We celebrate wins every week in a weekly email that I send out to the team highlighting the win of the week. We send out a monthly goal hitters leaderboard celebrating people who are achieving their activity targets and their customer engagement targets and their sales targets. Um, and these are, of course, add-ons to the competitive cash, equity, and benefits packages that we offer. Um, the compensation plan has to incentivize the right behaviors. Also, people will do what you pay them to do. So I've seen many well-intentioned plans drive the wrong outcomes because they weren't designed to drive the right behaviors, right? Or you thought you were designing a plan to drive the right behaviors, but there were trade-offs and loopholes and things that created challenge across the organization, or it didn't align with other teams across the company and created conflict. Ideally, we want to make sure that we're incentivizing the right behaviors and that those behaviors are aligned across the company. And then related to that is, um, I always try to think about and encourage others in our company to think about how comp plans can be designed to incentivize not just the individual but the team. So we think about, for example, the a pod structure where you
Mhm.
have a seller and a customer success manager and a business development rep and a sales engineer and a project manager all working together on the same set of accounts or in the same territory, and then having a component of their compensation that's tied to their individual performance as a member of the team, but a component that's also tied to the overall performance of the team because every one of those jobs needs to drive to the macro outcome that we're trying to accomplish as a company.
You mentioned about the emotional rewards, which was interesting. It's not always the intention that's required to build the right incentives, but what's the outcome is going to drive. When you design incentives, how do you balance cost of sales and margin goals with keeping reps, of course, highly motivated?
Yeah. Well, so again, this gets back to the concept of total rewards. The emotional rewards that you just mentioned are part of that. So celebrating those big and small wins makes a big difference. I send handwritten notes. I have these cards right here. Actually, I send handwritten notes to our team when they hit their quota for the year, when they accomplish President's Club. Etc. I text them when they win big deals. So we celebrate together those wins, which cost nothing but time. So that's a great way to sort of offset the cost of sales and the margin. But I think your question is more related to like true cost of sales and margin. And in that case, I partner really closely with our finance team to make sure that I understand what our commission pool looks like, that we've designed a plan that maximizes payout for top performance, that we're incentivizing the right behaviors, and then that we're tracking that accordingly. Um, for better or worse, I don't believe in changing plans midstream. So we spend a lot of time up front making sure that we adjust the plan and get it right for what we believe to be the goals for the following year. And once we set it, we don't change it. We lock in. I don't believe in changing the plan on reps in the middle of the year. So taking that time up front, working with our partners in finance to like really get it right, looking at what worked last year, what didn't work, and what adjustments need to be made, and then making sure that we can actually execute that through our tools, through our CRM, through our CPQ, through our commission tool, through our accounting tools, and that everything kind of pulls through and doesn't create a lot of manual work is the last piece.
Handwritten notes are pretty cool. It just cuts through the digital noise and gets a real reward out to all your reps. On data and machine learning, like how have data and machine learning changed your approach to forecasting and pipeline quality? Where have they helped most? And where do you still insist on human judgment?
So I think we're still really early in the data AI machine learning game. We use we use a forecasting tool, and it provides us with a deal score. That deal score is based on a number of signals. Have we captured all of the have we captured all of the qualification data through MedPick, right? The qualification methodology we use. What are the signals that we're seeing in emails and calls and engagements with our customers, and what does that tell us both in terms of the actual words and then in terms of the sentiment? um, are we multi-threaded on deals? So we you know the, our the best thing about these tools is that they understand in aggregate, right, on mass scale, what great looks like from a win standpoint. So where do we need power in the deal? How many stakeholders in the deal? How many touches? How many meetings? All of that stuff. So the forecasting tool can give us a great indicator in the deal score of, are we on track to win this deal? It can highlight the risks, no response from the customer in the last 2 weeks, or single threaded on the deal, or whatever, don't have power above director, whatever the things are. So that all really helps, and we try to marry those deal scores and those signals that the tools are giving us with some of the things that we know we need to do to control deals from a human standpoint. So we use a framework called 3 moments of truth, or 3 Mot, for closing, which is champion confirmed. So do you have a champion in your deal? Have you confirmed that you have a champion by asking very specifically, are you ready to recommend that your company move forward with Kastle? Do we have a time based incentive in the deal? We don't sell our best in class solution on price, but we do believe in investing in great partnerships. And to that end, we'd like to offer you X, Y, or Z. It could be additional service level. It could be in a financial incentive. It could be a $0 installation. It could be any number of things, financial or otherwise. Our only ask is that you execute our agreement by this date, right? So do we have a time based incentive in every deal? Have we followed up, and do we have a next step? Have we sent an email from me or another executive, like a sort of a top to top or flyover email? Like, have we done all of those things? Which we track in our systems, uh, but those are things that we can't automate necessarily, right? So when I do forecast meetings, we we ask the hard questions. I want to make sure that we're not manipulating I talked about data earlier and how that's the foundation. We want to make sure we're not manipulating the system. We want to make sure we're not plugging in information just to advance the deal to the next stage, even if the information's not accurate, right? Um, do we have the true pain really
Mhm.
captured for the customer? So those are the things that we do to, like, really interrogate the deals and in our deal reviews, and understand if we've got a shot to close. And then lastly, I get involved in a lot of our deals. I ask our sales leaders to get involved in a lot of our deals. We get on customer calls. We ask the questions that need to be asked. And you know, I think one of the things I've learned over the years is, um, great sales leaders are often skeptical, and great salespeople are often optimistic. So I hear from our sales reps that deals are coming. They've got the happy ears, or they're seeing it through rose-colored glasses, and that's awesome because we need that
Yeah.
positivity. We need that belief, that art of the possible. Like, that is what drives great salespeople to win. And then on the flip side, we need the balance in the sales leadership team to be really skeptical and challenging, and say, I'm not sure you heard that right, or I listened to the call and here's what I heard, or here's what the deal intelligence tool is telling me. Uh, Convince me otherwise, and that's where we marry the human and the machine.
That's an interesting take. Great sales leaders are always skeptical, and great sales reps are always optimistic. I have a follow on automation as well, since we spoke about marrying data and human intelligence. How do you see the biggest automation, or where do you see some of the biggest automation unlocks at the intersection of GTM and probably finance teams? I'm sure as a leader, you work with multiple teams put together.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. I think there's a ton of opportunity. The biggest short-term unlocks, I think, are probably in the area of, I'll say, like synchronization and making sure that for example, the CRM and the quoting tool and the accounting tool all all use and transfer the same data. We have a lot of issues as we did at our last company in trying to reconcile the data that is in CRM with what we actually wind up billing our customers and making sure that those things tie out. Um, Even the best integrations between CRM and accounting tools still have gaps because the fields are different. The needs are different. So, so that's one. Two is using automation to take some of the manual work away from our salespeople and or our team, not just our salespeople, our teams as a whole. So at Castle, and this is a configuration thing, not a system thing necessarily, but the way that our CRM is configured, it routes information to different systems on the back end. It routes information to our customer success system. It routes information to our finance systems. It routes information to our CPQ. All these other places. And because of the way that it's configured, our whoever's entering the data, most of the time, our salespeople often have to enter data the same data in multiple fields, right? They have to enter the address for the customer 4 times to create an opportunity, for example, and it's because those addresses flow to different systems. We can automate that and save time, right? Um, we can create where I really see the unlock actually as I think about our go to market is to be able to self generate or automatically generate proposals and quotes for our customers. So if we could train our salespeople, we're working on this now, but we've just kicked off an initiative to do this. But if we can train our salespeople to be excellent, best in class at discovery. And then we can build at like an AI bot, I'll call it, or an automation box or set of flows that then go out and source from our product team, from our price book, from our marketing team, all of the right material, like all of the materials, and automatically generate the quote and the beautifully designed proposal for the customer. Then we can train our salespeople on discovery and negotiation and closing, and they don't have to think about anything in the middle. And I think that's like for us, that's a big unlock. And if the proposal itself is system designed and system generated, assuming we've got the systems synced up, it should automatically create reconciliation between the finance system and the CRM. Right, less room for error, fewer gaps.
Yeah. Are there any specific resources, books, or podcasts that you would recommend for our listeners? Someone looking to scale their career, maybe in sales or in general?
Sure. I'll give you a few. One of the I'll call it my field manual for running a sales team is the Qualified Sales Leader by John McMahon. It's a great book that walks any sales leader through how to use Medpic or Medic to run your sales qualification, and then how to use that as a foundation for deal reviews and quarterly business reviews, and really making sure that your salespeople have it. It's a very practical guide. One of the books I'm reading right now is right next to me. It's called Future Proofed. It's by Kyle Coleman. This is about how AI is transforming go to market strategy. Again, very easy to read, very practical in terms of the use cases that are available, and then finally is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. I think as a leader and a team builder, it's one of the most critical books to read and understand.
3 key pieces of advice you would like to share with the listeners.
Three pieces of advice to share with listeners. I think going back to some of the things that I said before, one is it's all about your people, right? Talent is everything, so don't compromise on talent. Um, second is um, you can't do prioritize, prioritize and execute. I guess it's a which is one of the themes from Extreme Ownership. But there are so many tools out there right now. There are so many opportunities to improve. Um, if you try to do everything, if you try to peanut butter spread across too many things, you won't accomplish anything. So pick the few most important bets and go hard at those and give yourself the time and the patience to get them to completion before you start the next. Um, and you'll find yourself in a better place. Um, and then lastly is be a learner, be a lifelong learner. Um, I mean, I've been doing I've been doing this a long time, selling, leading teams. I'm a two-time CRO. I still invest constantly in learning. I've taken CRO school twice. I've taken enterprise CRO school. I've taken revenue arch. Like I take classes. I go to school. I read books. And I was just talking to our sales team earlier this week about professionals doing everything they can to be the best in their field. The best of the best are constantly growing, they're constantly learning, they're constantly seeking out feedback, they're constantly working with coaches to better themselves. Um, I'm a Boston guy, so like Tom Brady, arguably the greatest quarterback ever. I mean, he he was the first one. He was the first one at practice for his entire
Yeah.
career. He worked in the off season. He had personal coaches that he worked with in addition to the team coaches. He was constantly trying to get better at his craft. Um, so, you know, becoming a CRO is like the starting point, not the ending point, right? So constantly work your skills and improve.
It's all about people prioritizing better and always keeping the learning hat on.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of this insightful episode of Finance Fireside. Big thanks to Mark for sharing his experiences and valuable insights. Remember, you can tune in every week to learn more from game changers driving hypergrowth companies across the globe. Finance Fireside is brought to you by Everstage, your trusted partner for transforming the way businesses handle sales commissions. I'm your host, signing off.